Folks, welcome back to a new campfire episode, and today, as you can see, with a real proper campfire. Woo!
finally, yeah. And beer, of course.
Oh, of course, it's
cheers.
never missing. Cheers.
Already open. I hope you have a cold one as well.
So today, Helmut and I want to talk about what it actually takes to leave everything behind, your normal life, and to travel the world on motorcycles for a couple of years.
Yeah, we dive into a couple of questions. First of all, why did we decide to leave everything behind and explore the world on motorcycles? Yeah. And second of all, what made it happen that this dream came true? What was the key decision to make it happen? And then of course we talk about how does it feel leaving family, friends, and of course, well, this kind of safety net behind to quit our jobs and so on. We talk about doubts, we talk about fears as well, and we talk about, of course, about rewards, about the freedom we found on the road, and maybe also some regrets.
What would we do differently looking back now? Is there something? And then at the end, we talk about the one question we got asked the most over the last couple of years, I think. How could we afford to travel the world for a couple of years without being rich?
And selling kidneys and drugs. So.
So we don't waste any more time and start with question number one.
Cheers, guys. First question we want to dive in is, why did we decide to leave basically everything behind and travel the world on motorcycles? Well, there was beer involved, I have
like
to admit.
Always.
Like always, the great ideas always start with beer. We talked about it already. Well, we met, we got together, and Bea told me about her dream that she wanted to travel Australia.
Yeah, definitely. My dream was always
whatever.
to visit Australia for a bit longer than a normal holiday trip.
And I was immediately hooked, but I said, well, I don't see myself traveling in a camper van or backpacking or all that sort of stuff. I was a motorcyclist, so I said, if we're going to travel Australia, then by motorcycle.
Well, I had a motorcycle license, and then I thought, okay, if this is the only way to visit Australia, then let's do it by motorcycle.
Let's go for motorcycle.
Honestly, I had no bloody idea what it means to travel Australia or anywhere else
Me either.
on motorcycle.
Doesn't matter. Well, anyway, we did some research and we quickly found out, first of all, it's super expensive to ship motorcycles from Germany to Australia. And second of all, our employees said, well, you can quit or you can keep working. We just had the two options, no sabbatical or time off for a couple of months. So we said, well, for all this money and
if we have to quit anyway.
Yeah, well, we could ride to Australia.
And you have to say, back then, Long Way Round was quite popular, and you were really hooked with the idea of traveling overland to Australia.
Mongolia, wild places.
I was a bit worried because they have like a doctor, they have a dolmetscher, they have all this support crew, and I thought, can we really do it? Just the two of us? And that actually was another challenge that we said, okay, we just give it a try.
We basically never left really. Well, we left Germany, of course, because over there is Austria, but we've been to Italy and that's basically it.
Yeah,
So
no travel experience at all.
No,
so we were
it was a
absolutely
massive
greenhorns.
adventure to go to all these wild places back then.
Very scary.
But we said,
thoughts.
well, let's give it a go. And while we are on the road, we could do a travel around the world. And that's how this idea was actually born.
So what did we do to make this dream come true, to make it reality? And was there one key decision that made all of this possible? And to be honest, yes, there was one key decision.
One very important one.
But a very simple one. Just set a date and do it. Because very often you think, this is not the right moment, I'm not prepared enough, and And you will always find reasons why this is not the perfect moment. But there is no perfect moment. Just set a date and take off, and everything else will work out on the go, definitely.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you're not ready at this exact date. You can push it away for another week. Doesn't matter. But you need to set a date so you have it in your mind. And that actually is advice for anything in life you want to accomplish. You want to build a house, you want to start a big journey, you want to start your own business, set a date, start, and then you will get it done. And that brings us right to the next question, guys.
How is it to leave family, friends, and the safety of a job behind? Well,
when we planned, when the decision came up that we're going to do this journey around the world, I was, in Germany would say, I was on fire.
Yeah,
you know?
super
I was
excited all
super
the time.
excited. I knew that's the absolute right decision, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the first step was actually quitting my job. I had a very good job. I had absolutely great colleagues. I had super good fun. And when I quit the job, it was like it got a bit more into reality. It was like
more
is
serious
this-
suddenly.
Yeah, serious. Yeah. Is this the right decision to leave? You know, we talk about retirement, the safety of Germany and this job, and that's how we grew up anyway here in Germany. And then, of course, the day when we left, it was like, or the day when we packed, actually, the day before, it was like, holy
See,
moly.
we packed the bikes
The day before.
one day before we left on a big motorcycle world trip.
We never did a test trip.
So much about
Yeah.
being ready and prepared.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that we've been totally overloaded, but that's another topic. But anyway, we left and we said goodbye. All our friends were coming, like there were a lot, and they accompanied us with their motorcycles and so on, with their cars. And we've been both in
awesome.
tears,
Yeah.
and it was very emotional, and that lasted for, I would say,
And this very moment, I
weeks.
really questioned it. If
Yeah, me too.
if it is the right
riding
decision.
into the
Yes.
unknown, into places we've never been so far. and-
Completely overloaded. So the
Yeah.
first, I would say, 2 weeks we've been tough emotionally.
Yes,
Definitely.
yeah. But with every day on the road, and I have to mention, like the packing was a disaster. It was a mess. So when we stopped somewhere, that place instantly was a mess as well. Everything was
Like something
everywhere.
exploded.
Yeah. So we had no system at all. And my first big thought was when we camped somewhere, it was like, holy bloody hell! Now I have to do this for a couple of years. That's insane.
Is this really what I want to do? Yes.
yeah.
Where's my couch?
But then, you know, slowly we got into it, we got it sorted, we got a system. And after 2 weeks, I would say, it was like, I don't know if you know the feeling that you are in the right place, in the right moment. And that was it. Every day or every morning when I woke up and when I rode my motorcycle and packed my tent and so on, it was like, I'm absolutely in the right place. That's how it felt.
Yes, and
And-
the interesting thing is, after a while, you don't miss the comfort of a good bed anymore or hot shower. And we've been completely filthy and dirty, sitting next to the road, having lunch somewhere.
Jumped into the next river with
And
10 degrees water temperature.
I don't know how to explain it. It just feels from the bottom of my heart, this is
Yeah.
the right place where I want to be. And this feeling
Life on the road.
stuck. This
Yeah.
just stuck for all these years.
Yeah. But anyway, we talked about it, the doubts, the fears, and now we should talk about the rewards and the freedom we found. And there's a lot, actually. As we said, after 2 weeks, we got more and more into the travel mode, I would say. And we honestly loved what we did. And the reward was basically, of course, the adventure. The unknown, the learning about different cultures and countries, of course, and the kindness of the people. That was absolutely something that touched us.
That we discovered the countries and their people in a very raw and honest way, not through media or news where you always have the bad news.
You know, you get invited just from the road somewhere. I remember a couple of places on our travel around the world, and one of them was in the far east of Russia, in a small little town, and a guy took us in and brought us to his family, and the mother was there and the grandmother, and it was a very simple house, a wooden small house. They had a banya. That's how they lived there.
They heated up the banya so we can
Heated
have
up
a
the
shower.
banya, they had
Yeah.
a veggie garden, and it was very warm and welcoming. And you know, like we've been strangers 15,000 kilometers
Help.
away from home. And the next day we left. The mother and the aunt was there, and they were like, they gave us soap and food and
A big
you know,
watermelon like this,
and
big
they
on the top of
behaved
the bike.
like our mothers back at home.
Yeah.
You need this, you need to take care of this, and you need to do
Yeah,
this.
they've
And
been
when
so
we
worried
left,
about us.
and think about it, we've been there for one night. They both cried, and that was something, you know, that sticks to you.
Yeah. Mothers are the same.
Mothers all over the
Everywhere
world
around
are
the
the same.
world.
Then you might ask yourself, why do you guys do this show? You want to earn big money and all that sort of stuff. No, that's not at all. What we want to do is showing you guys the kindness of the people, the good stuff, the great experience we make, but also, of course, the challenges, the adventures. And finally, guys, we should talk about the topic freedom. Riding a motorcycle towards the sunset, having no plan, endless highway. When we left, this was the idea of freedom. You know, the big idea of freedom.
This is what they sell in the big Hollywood movies. This is freedom, riding down Highway 66.
But what we actually learned on the road is, this is, yes, it's part of the freedom, but on the motorcycles, we just had the basic stuff you really need to, I wouldn't say survive, but to live, you know, nothing else. No.
3 undies again.
No, well, back then we had maybe 4, but you have clothing, you have food, you have spare parts, you have tools, you have a camera. That's it. Nothing else to worry, and that gives you an incredible freedom to live. And that is actually the spirit of freedom for us now, is to just own, to just buy whatever you would value, you think about it. Nothing
what you really need and use
exactly.
and enjoy.
Nothing more, because anything you own, you have to earn the money first, then you have to buy it, spend time to buy it, of course, then you have to spend time to maintain it, and then you have to spend time to get rid of it. And that basically is where your lifetime goes. And if you just pay attention to the stuff that is really important to you, and then it doesn't matter, you can buy the high quality stuff. That's what we do. We buy the good stuff, the stuff that lasts a very long time. We enjoy it, and if we don't enjoy it anymore, we're gonna sell it and we get something else. That gives us the time to, well, enjoy life.
Yeah. And the freedom.
And the freedom.
So, looking back, is there something you would do differently? And I think there is only one tiny thing I would do differently, and this is not overthink too much. I mean, it still happens today, but back then, we planned for 2 years the route and the timing and what we want to do and how long it's gonna take to visit every country and where to stop. So we really planned in detail almost every step. And in the end, it turned out completely different. You meet people, they recommend something, you go somewhere different, your bike breaks down. The only constant thing is the change. And therefore,
as John Lennon said, life happens while you're making other plans, and that's exactly what happened there as well. So
I would say this is the only advice, the only major advice we could give when looking back is don't overthink.
Just get it started. Set a date, get it started, whatever you want to accomplish, and get it done. And that brings us right to the
last question, and the one question we got asked the most over the years, and the one question why you probably stick around if you're still here. And this is how we could afford to travel around the world for a couple of years on our bikes without being rich. So,
well, as you know, if you have a woman, you know, they have 2 eyes, 2 kidneys and that sort of stuff. So you can sell it on eBay. That's
Helmut,
one advice.
Shut up.
But that's the unofficial version.
We are not rich, our parents are not rich, we didn't win the lottery, so we are 2 very ordinary people. So how did we do it, that we traveled for such a long time? Well, first of all, when we decided we wanted to go on this trip, we started saving quite a lot. We started stopping going out for dinner. We sold everything that we owned, which wasn't too much, to be honest. And I think the key topic that allowed us to travel for such a long time is because we traveled quite basic. So we haven't been on a very strict limited budget like some people have $10 a day or so. So we didn't have a strict budget limit like this, but we tried to camp a lot, mostly somewhere wild in the bush. Saves a lot of money for accommodation, because if you have to pay for proper accommodation every night, this is really expensive.
But you have to admit, we never saved money in that kind of way, because we both love camping in the bush. We both love a simple food that we have a bit of a sticker sausage. It's not like we missed
something because we did it this way.
So the journey was all about creating memories and making experience. So if we wanted to ride this jet ski across the river, or to do bungee jumping, heli flying, or whatever,
which we did it.
We did it, and everything else, we basically kept it simple because we love simple.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Just cooking over the campfire, this is what we basically did most of the nights on our world trip and also now in Australia as well, because this is just how we like it. And I think this is also what allowed us to stay on the road for so long. And then, of course, it depends on which countries you're traveling. There are some countries that are really expensive, like US, Canada, Europe, of course. Australia as well is actually quite
First of all, big
expensive.
distances, and the country itself is rather expensive as well.
But there are also very cheap countries like Southeast Asia. A lot of parts of South and Central America are really cheap. So it really depends on where you want to travel and also on your travel speed, because if you travel like 30,000 kilometers in 6 months, that costs you a fortune, because it's just like the fuel already costs a fortune. But if you have the time to travel slower, in general it makes the travel cheaper, because you just stay longer in places, and you also, for example, have the time to, like, we got invited quite a lot, and we loved to stay with the people, and not because it was for free, but because it offers a unique insight into
Their lives.
someone else's
It
life.
was part of the journey,
Yes.
to say it this way.
Okay,
We're going to talk about numbers. And first of all, as she said, we basically saved for a couple of years. We sold everything. And in average, I would say back then we used roughly...
I would say for the two of us in the rather cheap countries, we've been below 1,000 euro per month for the two of us. And in the very expensive countries, we've been slightly over 2,000 euros. So you can see the range is quite big on how much you spend per month.
But in total, like per year, you would say 25,000 euros with spare parts, repairing motorcycles, which I did by myself, with
saved us a lot of money, by the way,
sleeping,
as well.
cooking, food, beers, any sort of fun we wanted to have, and the motorcycle transport. So if we shipped the bike somewhere, that was included. So all inclusive, 25,000 euros a year for the two of us.
And our calculation, the German calculation, was we can afford to travel for 2 years. But what we didn't see coming was we worked in Australia. We had a work and travel visa there. So we worked a couple of months on a farm there, earned quite good money, and that allowed us actually to extend the travel. And at some point, motorcycle magazines approached us and said, hey, we've seen your pictures. Would you like to write an article for our magazine? And then slowly this turned into some kind of job. Well, it did not, by far, not fund the travel, but it helped.
Supported it.
Yeah, it helped.
And after 5.5 years, we returned back home. We've been not broke, but close. But the numbers we are talking about is like 10 years ago. And now we've been for 1.5 years in Australia. So let's quickly jump into this topic as well. How much money did we use in Australia per month?
Actually the same, a little bit over 2,000 euro per month. But like I said, again, we did a lot of bush camping. A big tip for Australia, especially, and also for the US, house sitting is also a great opportunity if you like
fun.
if you like animals, because you can house it there, you can stay for free and enjoy a proper house for a while. And we really also enjoyed the company of the animals.
Got some work done.
Yeah,
of
a little
course.
routine. So that
was
was
great.
also a great option for us.
And as a last idea, guys, if you totally run out of money, drugs and prostitution, that works all over the world.
No, don't listen to him.
This idea came up while
It's
traveling.
a running
actually,
joke, to be
it's a
honest.
running gag.
Yes.
We had German number plates on our motorcycles, and usually, especially in touristy places, South America, wherever, we park the motorcycles, and some tourists would turn up, and they've seen our German number plates, and they would say, "Well, no, hello, and great journey, and what are you doing here?" The first question was, "How can you afford such a travel?"
In very often a not so
And after
nice tone.
a while, I got a bit annoyed, and my answer was drugs and prostitution. And you could see the people's faces. It was priceless, you know, like some just walked away. They didn't say anything, and others, they would like
Laugh and then
laugh
you
and
start a
start
normal
talking,
conversation.
you know?
Yeah.
So we don't do drugs and prostitution officially. We do kidneys and
Yeah, of
whatever.
course. No,
I have to
it's all
exchange her
still-
soon because
All parts are gone.
she's done.
Ah,
yeah.
Jesus.
So we're gonna work hard, we're gonna save money, we live simple. That's basically makes those journeys possible, you can do it as well. That's basically the message for the end of this episode, I would say. And we're gonna see you in the next one. Next one is, let me think about it, it's Glasshouse Mountains, Blackwall Range. Oh, that was pretty spectacular. We met quite incredible people. Talk about the world record, and then
with a lot of horsepower.
We had another breakdown.
Another breakdown?
Yes,
no.
Yeah, we had another breakdown. So different one. So it will be a great episode.
Make sure
That's
to
for
check
next
it out.
Sunday, and we're gonna see you the week after on the
in
next
the next
campfire.
campfire. Cheers, guys.